Hello, everyone. My name is Victor Manibo, and I am one of the attorneys here at Wang Law Office. We are an immigration law firm located in Flushing, Queens, and this is our new YouTube show, The AM Show.
Yeah, hi, I'm the host Ariel. I'm also a senior paralegal in Wang Law Office. Our show going to start every Friday at 8 a.m.
And if this is your first time joining us, it's a question and answer show about common immigration issues. You can feel free to send your questions to us over on YouTube, on the comment section, or you can also email us or send us messages through line, and we'll try to get to your questions. Usually, each episode we focus on one topic, but rest assured, we try to answer all questions that we can.
Yeah, Victor, can you tell us a little bit about yourself?
Sure. Like I said, my name is Victor, and I'm an attorney for Wang Law Office. I usually do immigration cases and cases that involve criminal law as it impacts immigration status. I've been doing this for 10 years now. I've been a lawyer for 12 years. I graduated from Cardozo School of Law here in New York, and I'm very happy to be able to do this and directly give some opinions and information about our immigration system, because it can get pretty complicated.
Yeah, we are an immigration law office. So one of the common asked question is, what is deportation order? How can I get one?
Right. So the past few weeks, we've been talking about how to get a green card or how to come to the United States through your family, how to get lawful permanent residency. And today, it's a little bit different because we're talking about deportation orders. That's another commonly heard topic, when you think of immigration. It's like you hear about petitions, you hear about green cards, now we're hearing about deportation orders. What is this?
Before we answer this question, can I ask you some question? What is the common reason for deportation?
Right. So, deportation just means somebody is, or the government is trying to send someone out of the country, send a non-citizen away from the United States. And there are very many reasons why someone could be deported, or in the common terminology or in the legal terminology, it's called removed from the country. One of those reasons is maybe you're here unlawfully, meaning you're in the country without lawful immigration status. You can be removed from the US if you don't have that. Or maybe you came in with a valid visa, valid lawful immigration status, like a valid tourist visa, and then your visa expired. Once it expires, the government might try to deport you or might try to remove you when your visa expires. Other reasons could be maybe you're not a US citizen, maybe you have a green card or lawful permanent residency, or maybe you have a visa, and then you commit a crime. They can take your visa away, they can take your green card away, which is bad. And then after they take your status away, they can remove you from the country. They can send you out, put you on a plane outside of the United States. So these are, some of the reasons, some of the more common reasons why a non-citizen would be removed.
Yeah, there's a lot of reasons. So if you meet one of them, you should come to consult first.
Yes, because this is obviously very serious. A lot of people, non-citizens, have been in the country for a long time, and as long as you're not a U.S. citizen, there's always something that could happen that could get you deported or removed. So if you're at risk of that, you should talk to an attorney right away.
Yeah, I want to ask, how does this deportation process start?
Okay, so the deportation process is governed by our immigration laws. And under our immigration laws, the government can't just, arrest someone that they want to remove and send them on a plane and or push them out of the border. Our country is still built on laws. It's still built on due process. So there is a court process to get someone removed. Generally there is. And you have to go to immigration court for that. You're going to go through what's called immigration proceedings. So it's kind of like a court case. When you see on TV, like criminal court cases, it's kind of like that. Immigration court, in immigration court, you have a judge, and that judge gets to decide whether or not you're removed from the country or not. Now, that whole process can be long, but it starts with the issuance of what's called an NTA, or a notice to appear. That's the first document that when it's given to you, that starts the removal proceedings or the deportation process.
So you mentioned MTA. Can you explain a little bit more regarding this MTA?
Right. So an NTA, again, it means notice to appear. So from those words, it means notice, meaning you as a non-citizen, you're being told something. To appear. Appear what? Appear where? You're being asked to appear in immigration court. So it's a document that's typically mailed to a non-citizen. Sometimes it's given in person, and it outlines a date and time and a location for where your immigration court case is going to be. And it outlines the facts that the government has against you that they think makes you eligible for removal. So going back, the whole process of removal, or the whole process in immigration court, is the government trying to get you out of the country. So in that document, in the notice to appear, the government has to list out, like, okay, here are the reasons why you have to be out of the country. So that's what an NTA is. It has, the date and time and location of your court case, and the reasons, the alleged reasons why the government wants to remove you.
So usually when I going to receive this MTA, when am I going to receive the document?
So the NTA, it depends on what the reason is for why you're being sent to immigration court. Like I said, sometimes it's mailed to you, sometimes it's sent to your attorney. If you're arrested by immigration, you might receive it while you're in custody with DHS. So it really differs when you're going to receive it, depending on the reason why you're receiving it. But in any event, like, that document should show you when your next court date is, and usually you have about 10 days before, like a 10-day period after you get the NTA before your next hearing, or your first hearing with the court. So you have enough time to, like, you got this notice, you have enough time to prepare to go to court in front of a judge. It's at least 10 days. But, with our immigration system, sometimes you might get an NTA that doesn't even have a date, or the hearing might get moved. These are just like the typical and like what's in the regulations. But once you get an NTA, if you get a date on it, or if it doesn't have a date, actually, anytime that you get an NTA, go find a lawyer right away, because it's the start of the case. So the timing doesn't really matter too much. It's about what you do after you get it that matters.
If I didn't receive this MTA by mail or even in person, and no one handed it to me, is that means my immigration court case still ongoing?
Yes, unfortunately, under the rules of immigration court and under our immigration law in general, you can have an ongoing immigration case even though maybe your notice to appear got lost in the mail or got sent to your attorney, but your attorney didn't tell you. There are many cases where you are obligated, you're still going to be obligated to show up in court, even though you might not have gotten the notice. And obviously, if you don't get the notice, you don't know where to go. You don't know when your hearing is, and you don't show up. And the judge can say, okay, this person didn't show up, we're going to send him out of the country. This is a common occurrence. But those are that's under the rules, and there are exceptions to those situations. But it's important to note that just because you don't have that piece of paper, or you didn't receive that piece of paper, it doesn't mean that you don't have an immigration court case. That's why if you think you have an immigration court case, if you've been told by someone that you have an immigration court case, if you got an NTA and then maybe you lost it, any indication that you might have an immigration court case, you should consult a lawyer, and they will find out whether or not there's an ongoing case against you, even though you don't have an NTA physically in front of you or in your mailbox.
Yeah. So can you tell me a little bit more detail? What kind of information is going to be on this MTA?
So the NTA, on the top, it's going to have your name, and it's going to have your address, or at least the address that immigration knows that you have. It's going to have your A number or your alien registration number, which is assigned to every non-citizen. And you'll see a listing, like a numbered list of facts about yourself, about how you entered or what status you had when you entered, and other facts that the government should prove to the judge so that the judge will send you out of the country or will remove you. So those are the details that's on there. And then towards the bottom, you'll see the date, time, and location of your next hearing. So the hearing is in one of the many immigration courts that we have all over the country. It's usually going to be the closest one to where you live, but not always. And again, there will be a date and time that will give you sufficient notice, at least 10 days, so that you can receive the notice and then attend the hearing. Sometimes there is no date and time or location, and that could be a problem. And that you can talk to your lawyer about. Say like, hey, my notice to appear doesn't have a date, time, and location. But that's not the only reason to talk to a lawyer when you get
when you visit an MTA, you should talk to a lawyer already.
Exactly. The notice to appear, it has to be delivered to you in person or delivered to you by mail. If it's in person, sometimes it has to be delivered with interpretation or by a person who can explain the NTA in a language that you understand. But generally, sometimes they just U.S. ICE, Immigration and Customs Enforcement, or the Department of Homeland Security just mails this out. So if you get this notice, just consult a lawyer right away.
Yeah, you mentioned there is some fact the government going to put on the MTA, right? Is those all fact going to be true?
Well, no. The notice to appear is, is made by the government. They're the ones who wrote that out. And that just gives notice to you and to the court of what they expect to prove, meaning this is what they think happened, and they will show to the judge, like, judge, kick this person out of the country because they overstayed their visa. Now, whether or not it's true is up to the judge and up to, the documents and the testimony that will be shown in immigration court. But as far as the NTA is concerned, whatever is on there, it's not necessarily the truth.
So how soon after MTA are actually going to have a hearing before an immigration court?
So, like I said, our laws give you a grace period. It's not going to be like you get the NTA today and your hearing is tomorrow. But how long after really, really depends on the scheduling of each individual immigration court. As I keep talking about on this show, our immigration system, the USCIS or immigration court, all parts of the immigration system, it's very backlogged, and scheduling an immigration court case can take months or even years. So it's hard to predict. There's really no predicting when your hearing will be or how long after you get the NTA you'll get a hearing.
Yeah. Then do I need a lawyer in the immigration court? That's really the question.
Strictly speaking, no. Like, you should show up to your immigration court dates even though you do not have a lawyer. However, that is not the best idea. You should go to immigration court with a lawyer as much as you can. Now, sometimes you might not have had the time to hire a lawyer, or you might not have had the resources to get a lawyer, but as much as you can, you should go to immigration court with a lawyer, especially if you're not an English speaker. The court is a very complicated process. There's a lot of things going on that not everyone can understand, or even if you speak English, you might not really understand specific terms or the specific procedures in the courtroom. So no matter what your education level, no matter how comfortable you are with the English language, no matter how important you think your case is or how difficult your case is, just assume the worst and bring a lawyer.
Yeah, a lawyer, they might have past case similar to your case so that they can help you on different way.
Yeah.
So what happened in the immigration court exactly?
Okay, so let's say you got your notice to appear. It says show up to this court on this date and time. And let's say you're one of our smart viewers who hired a lawyer. So you show up to your court date with your lawyer. What's going to happen in immigration court depends on what stage the case is. In the first hearing that you will go to is going to be what's called a master calendar hearing. It's mostly a scheduling hearing and mostly logistical because it's the first time. So it's the first time that you and your lawyer will be in front of the judge and will be meeting the lawyer for DHS or the lawyer for ICE, which is your opponent. So for that first hearing, what's going to happen is the judge is going to get to know what the case is about and will want to take some statements from you and your lawyer about the case. There might be some evidence that needs to be submitted or some forms that need to be submitted. But I'm not going to go through too much.
We're going to talk more on detail.
Yeah, but it's something that you should expect to meet the judge, the opposing counsel. You should expect to address the judge, or your lawyer will address the judge about certain things that are indicated in the NTA.
So is there a different kind of hearing? You say this is the first hearing, right? So in different stage, you're going to have a different hearing.
Right. So different stages, because every immigration court case is different, but generally there are different stages to an immigration court case. It usually does not end with just one hearing. Usually there are several, and these hearings can take several months or several years. And it's not always going to be quick and easy like the first one, because at some point you and your attorney will have to make arguments to the judge. We'll have to submit documents to the judge. We'll have to provide testimony to the judge. It's kind of like what you see in movies and in TV, where there's this big courtroom scene where there's a judge and then somebody is on the witness stand testifying, right? So that kind of hearing happens in immigration court too, but it's called an individual hearing or an individual merits hearing, where the immigration judge takes testimony from witnesses or takes testimony from you directly and takes evidence, and everything is laid out in court where both sides, your side and the DHS or ICE side, gets to test the evidence and test the witnesses by asking questions before the judge. So that could take hours or days, that kind of hearing. But that's one of the types of hearings. The other one, like I said earlier, is called the master calendar hearing. It's mostly logistical, where the attorneys and the judge are discussing details on how the case is going to proceed.
So, for example, if I don't have a lawyer for my case, I still need to go to my hearing, right?
Yes. I mentioned earlier, if you somehow did not get a copy of the NTA, or you didn't get what's called a notice of hearing, it's one of those notices that just tells you when your next hearing is. Even if you don't get those, you're still required to go. That's why it's important to have a lawyer to
check on your case.
To make sure that you don't have a pending hearing, right? But if, for example, you don't have a lawyer, you know that you have a hearing, but you don't have a lawyer, right? So you're a responsible person, you listen to our show, so you know that you still have to go. So you go in front of the judge, you don't have a lawyer, but you should get a lawyer and you want to get a lawyer. You can actually ask the judge and say, Judge, I do want to hire a lawyer. I will need some time to hire a lawyer. And the judge will usually give an extension for that. Will reset your hearing to another date that will give you enough time to hire an attorney.
So can I change the lawyer during the immigration court hearing?
Yes, the quick answer is yes. In our system here, not just immigration court, but in general, in our legal system, the client has the final say on who represents them. And so if you as a client want to replace your attorney at any point during your immigration court case, you can do that. Obviously, you should talk to your attorney first and tell them that you no longer want their services. And also you have to inform the court. And your current attorney will know how to do that, how to inform the court, and how to basically have your new lawyer substitute for him.
Okay. What are my rights in the immigration court?
This is a very good question, because I was just talking about the legal system in this country. You still have rights in immigration court, even though it's a kind of different court. It's a different kind of court. It's not like criminal court. It's not like civil court. It's not like traffic court. But immigration court is still a court. And non-citizens, people who do not have status, people who don't even have a green card or don't even have a visa, will still have rights in immigration court. That's in the law, that's in the Constitution. You have rights in immigration court against self-incrimination, meaning nobody can force you to say something against yourself. You have the right to a fair hearing. You have the right to due process, meaning the procedure has to be followed correctly and according to the letter of the law before anyone can send you out of the country. You have the right to confront the witnesses against you. You have the right to present evidence in your defense. You have the right to an attorney, although you don't have the right to a free attorney. You have the right to be represented by any attorney that you want. So even though some people might think, oh, I do not have status, I'm at a disadvantage if I go to immigration court, that's not necessarily true, because there are rights that are protected by our laws that are given to everyone, citizens and non-citizens and permanent residents alike in immigration court.
Yeah, you mentioned the word earlier regarding master hearing. What will happen in the master hearing?
So the master hearing, as I mentioned, is usually logistical and for scheduling. It's what the immigration judge uses to determine what's going to happen next in the case and when the individual hearings are going to take place. It's usually a short hearing where all parties show up and the judge asks about what the status of the case is. You might have to submit some documents or forms, and then the immigration judge, or who we usually call the IJ says, okay, so I have everything that I need. We're going to have our individual hearing in a month or in 2 months or whenever the judge has an availability. That's what usually happens in a master calendar hearing.
I heard about the word scheduling order. What's the difference between scheduling order and master hearing?
So in immigration court, they're doing a new system now where people aren't asked to go to the courthouse anymore in person partially because of COVID and partially because of the backlogs in immigration court. So one new system that our government has come up with is issuing a scheduling order. It's a timetable, basically, that the IJ issues to the parties of the case, to DHS and to the non-citizen and their attorney. And it lists out deadlines for when documents have to be submitted, when forms need to be submitted, so that the IJ doesn't have to meet with everyone. Everything is going to be on paper. And the next time that everybody meets is going to be an individual hearing, typically. So this is a new development. It's only happened in the past year and a half, I want to say, and it's a way to streamline the process and make it quicker.
So what will happen in the individual that you just mentioned?
Now, in the individual hearing, for example, let's say you've gone through the master calendar hearing, the IJ has set you for an individual, or like you got the scheduling order, you've submitted everything, and the IJ set you for an individual hearing. What happens in an individual hearing generally depends on the stage of the case or the type of the case. But for a lot of people, it's usually the stage where you have to convince the IJ that you should not be deported from the country. And how do you convince an IJ not to deport you? That's very hard, right? You have to convince the judge not to deport you because, number one, because the government has no reason to deport you, or number two, because you're eligible for some kind of status or some kind of immigration relief. So those are, the two main reasons why. And to prove either one of those things, you need to have documents. You need to have testimony from witnesses who are believable and credible, who will be able to convince the judge about what you're trying to say. And you have to have legal argument. You have to have the law on your side as well. So all of those things, the legal argument, the testimony from a witness, the documents that you will use to support your arguments, all of that gets presented and all of that gets discussed during an individual hearing.
Yeah, so in that case, you really need an experienced lawyer who knows what to do to help you in the hearing.
Absolutely. The individual hearing is not something that a layperson can do on their own. It doesn't matter how, like I said earlier, how educated you are or how comfortable you are with the English language or how many lawyer shows you've seen. The immigration system is very complicated. This is why there's so many cases and there's so much backlog, because it is a complicated system. And to protect your rights as a non-citizen, you really need someone who knows what they're doing, who knows how to navigate the system, and who can advise you and who can lead your case towards victory.
Yeah. When am I going to get a decision after the individual hearing?
So for individual hearings, sometimes you might get a decision right away. Some IJs are very quick to decide. And for some IJs, you might have to wait. They might say, okay, I've read all the documents you sent me. I listened to all the testimony. I've heard all the arguments from the lawyer. I need some time to think about what I'm going to do. And so everybody has to come back here in a couple of months sometimes. Or the judge might say, I've considered everything. I need some more time to think. I will send you a decision by mail. When that happens, when the next hearing or when the decision is issued, whenever that happens, again, depends on how busy the judge is, how busy the court is. There is no set time or there's no deadline. There's no legal requirement that it has to be fast. So, there is no direct answer. The answer is it depends on the judge.
What can I do if I was ordered removal or deported?
Yeah. So if you, for example, go through the individual and you put up a good case and somehow you still lose, one of your options is to file an appeal with the Board of Immigration Appeals, which you have to do within 30 days. And, we can talk about that some other time because an appeals process is a completely different thing. Or you can also file a motion to reopen or reconsider with the same immigration court, with the immigration judge, within 90 days. You can ask them to reconsider their decision. But, the short answer is it's not the end of the road. You can appeal. You can do a motion to reopen or what's called an MTR. So don't lose hope. If you lose your immigration court case, obviously it's bad, but it's not the end.
Yeah, I heard the word final order. When does an order become a final?
Final order, that term final order is very important because once you are a final order, ICE can pick you up and put you on a plane. Final order means everything is done. As far as immigration is concerned, you have to be removed from the country. So that's the end of the road that I was just talking about. Typically, that's the end of the road. So it's important for people to know when an order becomes final, and the order becomes final on two things. One, if you lose your case in the immigration court and then you lose it again at the BIA level, if you appeal it to the BIA and you lose the appeal, after you lose the appeal, the day you lose your appeal, that's when your removal order becomes final. That's one. Number two, if you lose your immigration court case and then you don't appeal, like I mentioned earlier that you have 30 days from the date of your order to appeal. After those 30 days, if you do not appeal, then your removal order becomes final. So you lose your appeal or you wait the 30 days and then you don't appeal. At the end of those 30 days, the order becomes final. And as far as ICE is concerned, they can pick you up and remove you from the country. Obviously, there are exceptions to this, but generally that's what final order means.
Yeah, we answered part of our question, what is a deportation order? Then how can I find out if I have an order?
Usually you can find out if you have a removal order on the EOIR website, eoir.gov. They have a function there where you can enter your alien registration number and it will pull up information about your immigration court history. A lot of people might not be aware that they have a removal order. Like I said, sometimes people don't get their notices and then the court issues a removal order against them even though they did not show up to court. So they're not aware of what's going on. So if you think that you might have any immigration problems like that, but you're not aware, contacting an immigration lawyer is always a good idea because they will be able to tell you how to find out this information, how to access your files, and then how to fix the problem.
Yeah, you should come to consult us. And actually, our time is up, so feel free to leave your question to us.
All right, great. This was so much fun. Again, if you have any other questions about any immigration topic, please feel free to reach us. And like I say, at the end of every episode, all our discussions here do not create an attorney-client relationships between me or any of our viewers. This is all legal opinion. It's not legal advice. If you want legal advice and if you want legal help, please feel free to contact our offices. We would be glad to hear your case and see what we can do for you.
Yeah, you can also continue follow us on the YouTube. And thank you. See you next time.
Bye.